Welcome to Wisdom Radio. I'm Dr. Rusty Hoffman, professor of interventional radiology at Stanford, bringing you a direct line to critical research and interventional updates. Powered by AI, curated by experts. Let's get started.
If you're jumping into your IR rotation, maybe prepping for a big case review, or honestly just want to get a solid, fast handle on the key tools in interventional radiology, you are absolutely in the right place. Today, our mission, we're going beyond just naming things. We want to get into the why behind the choices. We're building up your, let's call it, mental toolbox of embolic agents, specifically focusing on the big three categories: particulates, coils and plugs, and the liquid embolics.
That's exactly right. And it's so important. When you're actually there doing the procedure, knowing the name isn't enough. You need to know how it works, why this agent for this situation. So we'll tackle this logically. We'll start small, downstream with particulates, then move proximal to the mechanical blockers like coils and plugs, and wrap up with the, let's say, more complex liquids.
Okay, let's dive into particulates first. So these are the agents you're sending way out distally, right? The idea isn't blocking one big pipe. It's more like shutting down the whole capillary neighborhood.
Precisely. You're targeting the tiny arterioles and capillaries, that whole vascular bed. The first one everyone learns is Gelfoam. It's kind of the temporary classic. It's a biodegradable gelatin sponge.
Temporary. Okay, that's the key word.
Yeah.
But why temporary? If something's bleeding, wouldn't you want a permanent fix?
Oh, good question. It really gets to the core of how it works. Gelfoam does physically block things up a bit, sure. But its main job is acting as a scaffold. It encourages platelets to gather. It activates the clotting cascade. Basically, it helps the body form its own clot. And because the body breaks it down over, say, a few weeks, usually, it's perfect for acute bleeds where you want healing. Think trauma, maybe postpartum hemorrhage. You stop the bleeding now, but you give the vessel a chance to heal and maybe even open back up later, recanalize.
Got it. So immediate stop, but potential for long-term recovery. And when we prep it, it's either those little 1-2 millimeter bits, the torpedoes, or mashed into a slurry.
Exactly. The torpedoes for maybe more targeted vessel plugging, the slurry mixed with contrast to really push it deep into a bleeding area. Okay, so that's temporary. Now let's flip to permanent. That brings us to PVA, polyvinyl alcohol particles.
Right, PVA. I remember these being described as irregular little rocks, permanent rocks.
That's a good way to think of it. They lodge, and unlike Gelfoam, which promotes natural clotting, PVA just physically blocks. And because they're permanent and foreign, they cause this inflammatory reaction that leads to fibrosis. Permanent scarring, permanent vessel shutdown.
And the sizes vary quite a bit, right? From really tiny, 50 microns, up to maybe 1,000. Where do we typically use these permanent PVA particles?
The classic indication is uterine fibroid embolization, UFE, or maybe preoperative tumor embolization. You want to permanently cut off the blood supply to the fibroid or the tumor. You pick the size based on the vessel size you're targeting in that tumor bed. You want to saturate it. But a quick tip for anyone starting out with PVA, because they're like little rocks, irregular, they love to clump together. You have to mix it constantly, inject really slowly and carefully. Otherwise,
you clog the microcatheter.
Instantly. And your procedure grinds to a halt. Very frustrating.
Which naturally leads us to the more modern version, right? Microspheres, Embospheres. If PVA are rocks, these are perfect little marbles.
Exactly. Also permanent, but they're perfectly spherical, precisely calibrated to specific size ranges, say 300, 500 microns. That solves the clumping issue. And because they're uniform spheres, they pack much more densely and predictably. They flow further, more evenly than PVA tends to. Less clogging risk, too.
Makes sense.
So wrapping up particulates, the big decision points are temporary Gelfoam versus permanent PVA or spheres, and then size, which dictates how far downstream you are aiming to block.
Okay, done with the tiny stuff. Now let's say you need to block one specific larger vessel. We need something more substantial. That's where we get into mechanical occluders, coils and plugs.
Yep, and the absolute workhorse here still is the pushable coil. They're simple, relatively cheap metal coils, often with little fuzzy Dacron fibers on them to help kickstart clotting. You literally use a pusher wire to shove them out the end of the catheter.
Simple, cheap. Sounds good. But there's a catch, right? You said pushable. Once it's out, no takebacks.
Once it leaves the catheter tip, it's deployed. You cannot retrieve it. So your catheter position has to be rock solid, stable. You have to account for blood flow trying to push it around.
So what's the risk if you mess up?
Well, it could migrate downstream and block something you didn't intend to block, or it could prolapse back into the parent artery. Not good.
Yeah.
So they're great for speed and cost when the position is straightforward and the risk is low. Think gastroduodenal artery embolization before a Y90 liver treatment, or maybe a small pseudoaneurysm in a non-critical spot where you have perfect stable access. You can just dump coils quickly.
Okay, so that lack of retrieval is the trade-off, which brings us to the detachable coils, the precision tools.
Exactly. These stay attached to the delivery wire. You can push the coil out, take a look with fluoro, do a little contrast puff, check position. If you don't like it, maybe it looks unstable, maybe it's the wrong size, you just pull it back into the catheter.
Ah, the peace of mind option.
Totally. You can reposition, choose a different size, whatever you need.
Yeah.
Only when you are 100% happy with the position do you detach it, usually with a little electrical current or mechanical release.
And there are even fancier versions, like hydrogel coils.
Right. Those have a coating that swells up when it hits blood, so you get more volume filling from fewer coils, potentially faster occlusion. Very useful. You reach for detachable coils anytime precision is paramount. Near critical arteries, difficult anatomy, high-flow situations where pushable might migrate. Anywhere non-target embolization would be a disaster.
Okay, makes sense. So from tiny coils, we scale up. What if you need to block a really big vessel? That's where plugs come in, the big guns.
That's the term. Vascular plugs, like the Amplatzer vascular plug or AVP. These are typically single, self-expanding mesh devices made of nitinol. Also detachable, which is key for large vessels. Imagine trying to fill a 10-millimeter splenic artery with tiny coils. It would take forever, cost a fortune in coils. A single plug can often do the job much more efficiently. So yeah, you use them for large vessels. Splenic artery embolization, closing big AV fistulas, maybe portal vein embolization before liver surgery. Anywhere coiling would just be impractical.
Okay, we've got the range now from particulates up to these big plugs. If there's one golden rule, one absolute must-do for any mechanical occluder coil or plug, what is it?
Sizing,
Yeah.
without a doubt. You must measure the target vessel diameter accurately, and then this is critical, you have to oversize your device.
Oversize, how much?
Generally about 20 to 30% larger than the vessel diameter. So if you measure a 5-millimeter vessel, you should be reaching for a 6 or even a 7-millimeter coil or plug.
Why so much bigger? Won't I have trouble fitting?
It sounds counterintuitive, but you need that oversizing so the device actively pushes against the vessel walls. It needs to nest securely. If it's undersized, or even just sized exactly to the vessel, the blood flow can just push it downstream. Migration is the enemy. That 20-30% rule ensures it grabs hold and stays put.
All right, now for the really interesting, maybe slightly intimidating category, liquid embolics. When do these come into play? When coils are too big or particulates would just wash away?
Exactly. Think complex vascular malformations, high-flow situations, or tiny vessels where coils won't fit. Our first major liquid is Onyx. That's an ethylene vinyl alcohol copolymer, EVOH. Key things about Onyx. It's non-adhesive, which is important. It has tantalum powder mixed in so you can see it really well under X-ray.
Non-adhesive, but it's a liquid embolic. How does it block the vessel if it doesn't stick?
Ah, the magic is in the solvent. Onyx is dissolved in DMSO dimethyl sulfoxide. When you inject this mixture into blood, the DMSO diffuses away super quickly into the bloodstream. As the solvent leaves, the EVOH polymer precipitates out of solution. It forms this kind of continuous, rubbery, lava-like cast that conforms perfectly to the vessel shape.
Lava-like.
Uh-huh.
And because it relies on that diffusion, you can control it more.
That's the huge advantage. It's not instant. You can inject a little bit, pause, watch it solidify under fluoro, see how the flow changes, then inject a bit more. It allows for really controlled, slow filling of complex spaces.
Okay, controlled but slow. What's the alternative? Something faster.
That would be n-BCA, n-butyl cyanoacrylate, basically. Medical-grade superglue.
Superglue. Okay, that sounds fast. And risky.
Extremely fast and, yes, extremely risky. It's highly adhesive. And it's naturally clear, radiolucent, so you have to mix it with low piodol, just so you can see where it's going. Its mechanism. It polymerizes, hardens almost instantly on contact with ions like, blood or saline or contrast.
Instantly?
Ow.
So why use something so aggressive?
Speed. For really high-flow connections, like certain types of fistulas, even Onyx might get washed downstream before it has time to precipitate properly. Glue speed can be essential in those cases. But the control is minimal.
Which leads us straight into the safety rules. Let's start with the glue, n-BCA. What's the absolute #1 danger?
Gluing the microcatheter to the patient. Permanently bonding your catheter inside the vessel, because it polymerizes instantly on contact with blood if any blood refluxes into the catheter tip while you're injecting, or if you pause even for a second.
You're stuck.
You're stuck. The injection has to be one single, smooth, deliberate push.
Okay, that's intense. What about Onyx? The risks seem different, more about the DMSO solvent itself.
Absolutely. DMSO has material compatibility issues. This is huge. It degrades standard plastics. It will literally melt a regular syringe. It can damage or block a standard microcatheter. It's rule number 1. You must use the special DMSO compatible syringes that come in the Onyx kit. Rule number 2. You must use a DMSO compatible microcatheter. Things like the Marathon, Eclipse, Apollo are common examples. Using the wrong gear is a setup for failure and potential patient harm.
Wow, okay, so specific equipment is essential. But you mentioned something about priming the catheter, too, getting rid of saline.
Critically important.
Ah.
The other absolute non-negotiable for Onyx. Remember how it precipitates when the DMSO diffuses away? Well, if Onyx mixes with saline or contrast inside the catheter before it even gets into the blood,
Instant clog.
instant precipitation, instant catheter blockage, dead stop.
Yeah.
So before you draw the Onyx into the special syringe, you have to flush the entire microcatheter dead space with pure DMSO first. Fill it completely with solvent. That ensures the Onyx only starts precipitating once it hits the blood in the target vessel.
That level of prep really underscores the difference, doesn't it? Just to recap the big families for everyone listening. 1. Particulates. Think downstream vascular beds. 2. Coils and plugs. Proximal blocking of single vessels. Think mechanical structure, key trade-offs. Pushable means cheap, fast, but no retrieval. Detachable means precision safety, but costs more. And that critical 20-30% oversizing rule. 3. Liquid embolics. Complex casting for tricky anatomy. Onyx gives you control but needs special handling. Glue gives you speed but carries significant risk.
Nicely summarized. And maybe the final thought to leave folks with. It's moving beyond just knowing what these agents are. The real understanding, the path to becoming a skilled interventionist, is constantly asking why. Why did they choose coils here, not Gelfoam? Why Onyx instead of glue for that AVM? What were the risks they were weighing? When you start dissecting the decision-making process in every case you see or read about, that's when you move from just knowing the tools to truly understanding the craft.
This is Dr. Rusty Hoffman, and that's a wrap for Wisdom Radio. Download the Wisdom app by searching for Medical Wisdom, spelled WYSDOM, or visit medicalwisdom.ai for rapid-fire videos, podcasts, and community insights. And remember, knowledge is the best medicine.